All right, guys, welcome back. Chief Kirk for Kravology. So this week we've had a ton of requests from you out there and watch Kravology. And the request is that there's this video that's been posted. I think it's on YouTube, and it's a video of guys talking about knife attacks. It's an attacker and it's a defender, and the attacker's just kind of moving the knife around. He's going in a little bit aggressively. He's not allowing the defender to do what the defender thinks he wants to do. And the defender's kind of stymied by it. He's befuddled by it. He says, "Oh, I've trained the crap out of knife defenses, but I just, this isn't working," right? So that's part of the story. And to their credit, I want to say that those guys have highlighted a substantial issue in self-defense in general, but more specifically with training against knife attacks. And we're going to get into that in a minute, but I want you to understand this week we're addressing questions about knife attacks, and the video specifically we've dropped into the video today. I think you'll be able to see why people are concerned about it, and when you're done watching that, you'll see what our response is. Stay with us.
Yeah, it's different.
So the person,
like, that is hard to...
And here's the thing, right? You've done a lot of knife defense. How is it harder than now?
I couldn't even use one of them.
One of them.
Not one single... I'm telling you, I trained the crap out of those things for years. And there's no way I could do any of those.
Why is that?
Because this is realistic.
It's realistic.
Because when you're sitting there slashing at me...
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. And I try to do... If I tried to do any of the blocking, or even if you're coming in, boom, and I'm doing that, all of a sudden I try to knee.
I'm moving.
You're moving. It's not, I'm not going to be able to, so I'm going to do the same thing. Boom, grab onto you. It's not going to happen.
All right, so I brought Simon in. What we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about knife. I know I talked about that earlier, but here's the issue. When you're dealing with a knife attack, one of the most important things to understand is that a skilled attacker will turn a stab into a slash and a slash into a stab. Simon's here because he's one of our students that's in our knife program. And part of the defensive knife program is understanding this process. So I've got a training knife here, never trained with a live blade. And I'm going to show you what I mean by stab to slash. And it will begin to inform you a little bit about why the knife is so dangerous outside of the ideas of like, oh, it never runs out of ammunition and it takes no strength to wield. Part of the reason is the knife has to move, and it moves well in transition from stab to slash. It looks like this. So I'm stabbing at Simon. He's made a defense. I'm slashing through. I'm stabbing. He's made a defense. I'm going to make what we call a slashing motion here, and I'm making this stab again. So the stab becomes a slash. The stab becomes a slashing motion back to a stab. So this issue is really paramount for people to understand. The knife has the ability to change directions and angles and to be used as a slashing instrument as well as a cleaving and a stabbing instrument. So it's very difficult to defend. In the video we talked about earlier during the intro, what we were really trying to get at is this. As you watch that video again, I want you to look at several things. The thing that is most prevalent in the video that needs to be understood is at no time was there a counterattack. I can just tell you flatly, if you're not counterattacking, you're training to fail. Now, a lot of people will ask, well, what about the knife moving? Yes, you need to defend the knife, but I want to give you an extreme example. At one point in class, I said, if I could just give you a counterattack or a defense to the initial attack with a knife, I would give you the counterattack. And we had a student who just wouldn't accept it, so I asked the student to put a protective mask on. I gave the student a training knife and said, stab me. And when he came to stab me, I just did a palm heel strike to the training mask, and the stab never occurred. He got to this position, he got hit, he stumbled back, no stab, and no follow-up stab. That's not a defense. It's an example of what the counterattack does for you. The counterattack divides the attention of the attacker, and it gives you a moment to take the initiative because the attacker is not solely focused on moving the knife. What you can't do, and what we saw in the video, if you go back and look, was you saw the defender do something called, what we call chasing the knife, which means making a defense and trying to chase the knife wherever it went. That's not a good idea. What I want you to do is make one defense and a very solid counter. We try to aim for the temple, down the jaw to the chin. The other side we call it the horseshoe. That's the best place to counter, but not the only place. Hit them in the head. We call that the computer. Confuse them. Be aggressive. Divide attention. Attention divided divides intention. And the knife will pause. When the knife pauses, you have to take the initiative of the fight. The other thing, though, if we talk about the actual video, one of the things I want you to notice is the defender was defending, he was chasing a knife, he was doing a lot of things that we wouldn't think of as doing correctly, or he wasn't doing things right, so to speak. But yet, if you look at the video, he was never contacted by the knife in a critical place, not the face and neck or the chest or the ribs. And the reason is the attacker was just moving the knife like an unskilled attacker might. It's not a great outcome, but it's not the worst outcome in the world either. Notice in the video, the defender goes and tries to go into control, and every time the defender goes into control, the attacker withdraws. The defender thinks, oh, I failed because he got away, but the way he got away was by withdrawing from the fight. He made wrist releases and he made space. He made space to put him outside even kicking range. Again, that's not the goal or the desired outcome, but it's not catastrophic either. So I think the defender actually did a better job than he or he thought he did in the video. The issue is trying to understand what range of outcomes he's looking for as opposed to trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. So what I want you to get from this video is a couple things. But most importantly, if you get one thing, it's this. If you don't counterattack in a knife attack, you're going to get cut up. It's just that simple. You must have a counterattack. And when I train with Simon and other guys in our knife group, one of the things we talk about how the knife pattern can be interrupted if there's a counterattack. And by training these knife patterns, defensive knife patterns, I think the guys realize we've had conversations to the effect that basically it reinforces the concept of a counter, the need for a counter. So if you watch this video, one, look at what the attacker's doing, look at how he disengages to escape, but most importantly, see that the defender never makes a defense with his counter. The counter matters most. So knives are dangerous. They're deployed in close quarters. Every stab is a slash. Every slash is a stab. And the only way to stop this is to make a counterattack. It's so important that I know my guys in our knife group have learned that to be the case, but also they're now working on deploying their knife where they're able to try to mute a counterattack because they recognize if they're counterattacked, the pattern's gone. Is that true?
True. Yeah.
So when you watch these videos, you need to understand what you're watching and you need to understand how to find the solution. This is the last comment for you. It's an important one. Darren Levine has been my instructor for years as well as other great instructors. And the thing that we did when we did knife training, we looked at this bevy of knife attacks that Darren has access to on video. If you look at 1,000 knife attacks and your focus on those knife attacks is to figure out what went wrong, you're doing the wrong work, because it could be one of an infinite number of things that someone did that appear to be the critical thing that went wrong. The truth is they were chasing the knife and just got behind the knife. What you need to identify is what's the common denominator behind all the successful defenses, and what you're going to find is that that's the counterattack. You must counter in a knife attack. All right, just to sum this up, remember, when you're dealing in self-defense, or you're more specifically dealing with knife attacks, you must have a counterattack. The counterattack is what matters most. Yes, I want you to defend the knife. When you defend the knife, you're essentially defending the first attack. Your counterattack is addressing every attack that comes after that. It needs to be aggressive, it needs to be powerful, it needs to be ideally at the head, and hitting someone in the head hard and going in. What you're doing is you're allowing yourself a moment in time to basically take the intention of the attacker and not only their intention, but their focus, and divide it, right? I spent 8 hours in my garage years ago doing a knife seminar, which attacking people. And I can tell you from experience, It's hard to even stab twice when someone really hits you hard in the head. There's a lot of stuff that happens physiologically in terms of your hips coming forward, but your head staying back, and in terms of what happens in your mind. So I know from firsthand experience that when students have these questions, the way to resolve it, if all the waivers are signed, is to allow the student to feel it for themselves. I'm going to say this one last time, or at least for this video. I'm giving you advice. It's based on over 20 years of experience, but that doesn't really matter. What matters is that you prove this to yourself. So take what I'm telling you. You must have a counterattack. You must be aggressive. You must go into control and throw combatives in a way that definitively divides the attention and the intention of the attacker. If you do that, you'll be much more successful. Remember to drop down the box, send us questions, comments, subscribe to our Kravology page and to our social media stuff. And as always, walk in peace.